Welcome back to the Ford Tech Garage. I'm Chris, and today we're working on the Jeep. In this video, I'm going to show you how to rebuild and adjust the Ross T-12 steering gearbox, and then we're going to get the steering gear and the column all installed. We'll get the steering wheel hooked up, and we'll get the horn brush all hooked up. This is going to be a longer one because it does have some technical information in it that I want to share. I noticed there's only a few videos really breaking down this whole process. A lot of guys are just going ahead and ordering Reaming steering gearboxes that come with the steering tube and they're all adjusted and everything. And I think that's fantastic, and it comes at a great value because certainly at some point your time is worth something. And I've certainly got a lot of time into this thing. But for me, I like doing it myself. I like to learn the process. And at the end of the day, I have a steering gearbox that I overhauled, I remanufactured, I know what's in it, I know how it's set up, and if it's wrong, it's my fault. So this footage has been laying around for quite a while, and it's taken me a few years to get it all tidied up. So let me take you back a few years ago, and we'll start with a cleaned up steering gearbox, and it's all ready. We have all the parts ordered, and we're ready to start putting pieces in and getting it set up. Trying to rebuild the Ross T-12 gearbox for the Willys here. And one problem I kind of noticed before I started assembling it was that these ears where the bolts go are, the whole thing's kind of warped from the tension and turning the wheels with the worm gear. So I wanted to just true this up nice and flat, try to get it flattened up. So I'm just kind of going over this knife sharpening stone, just trying to true up those ears and get them, get a nice flat surface before I start trying to seal this back up. Okay, so I think that's pretty good right there. Got a nice flat finish all the way around, so it's going to seal up to that box nice and put even pressure on that bearing. Okay, so we're back out in the garage tonight, and I am going to try to get this gearbox finished up. I started rebuilding the Ross T-12 about 8 years ago or so, and this is as far as I got back then. I had a parts kit all ordered up for it. I had sandblasted and painted it, put the bushings in and the seal, but I never got around to actually reaming it out. And so these bushings, when you put them in, they get squished down. And so, yeah, right there's the seam there. Anyway, so they squeeze in. And what we need to do is we need to ream them back out to make them fit this shaft. So I don't have any kind of tools like this, so I had to order it. This came off of Amazon. It's just a Chinese high-speed steel 7/8 reamer, and it's a chuck style. It's not a hand style, but I'm thinking that we're just taking off a few thousandths because technically if I put some lube on this, I can wiggle it in and out of there. I can force it in and out of there, so we're not taking off very much material. So I'm going to go ahead and probably get a little bit of WD-40 and just kind of hand ream this. Now this steering box is kind of a big project for the Jeep. It's one that really needs to be done now that the body is bolted back on, and it kind of needs to be installed at the same time. I guess I need to get the brake pedals and a whole bunch of stuff installed. So yeah, that's going through super easy there. And then we'll have to clean all this metal out really good. We got our little lube hole there. We gotta make sure this is all clean. And I did already go ahead and put the seal in a long time ago. I don't think I realized that this needed to be reamed quite yet. You can see that seam there where it pinches on it. So all right.
check that sector shaft again. Okay, that's got a really nice fit now. Yeah, that's a really nice fit. So, much better than where it was when we first put the bushings in. I'm happy with that. Try to get this slip ring. So there's a little taper in the steering shaft, just right about there. And what I've heard is that it is very difficult to get that down. So I'm expecting a little bit of a struggle. And I haven't really seen anyone else posting any kind of video or instruction on how to do this. Ah, you gotta be kidding.
As you can see, installing that slip ring first was the wrong thing to do. The bearing, the race, and the end cover would not fit back over that. I ended up having to grind them out to get them to fit. So do not do what I did. Make sure you get the box assembled first, and then you can install that slip ring. But for now, let me show you how I did install that slip ring.
I just looked around the garage, and I've got this. I don't know where this came from, but that kind of fits on there, and that would give me a surface to kind of hit on. Another thing I'm thinking about is trying this wrench and just kind of tapping there. So, okay, so yeah, that kind of. But what I'm thinking is that this will kind of give a little bit better. You can see my table already had a little pipe adapter on there that I've got it secured with, and we'll just have to move the thing up. Just want to see how this is going to work. Okay, I found some 1/4 inch square tube that was left over from building the ramps, and I think, let's see if this will help ram that thing down. I need to get a little bit higher. Oh, shoot. I buggered it up. Okay, so yeah, that's working. I got a ton of metal shaving dust in there that's making a mess out of it, but that is driving him down. So let's keep doing that. Actually, I think I don't need the table to support it. That's looking pretty good. Okay, we gotta get just down past that. Oh, it's right there now. I don't want to go too much past that hole. Before we know. That. Yeah, that worked perfect. Ah, you gotta be kidding. I guess I could pop these balls out of the plastic and then put them back. God dang it.
So it turned out popping the balls out of the plastic cage allowed me to slide it over the slip ring, and then I was able just to pop the balls back in. There's 2 bearings at the top and bottom of the arm gear, and one bearing is going to go in the case at the bottom. The other bearing slides over that, and I actually had to take a Dremel and grind that out so it would fit over that slip ring, and I made sure that I didn't grind into any material that the balls would actually ride on. And then I ground that housing up, and here I am fitting the shims that are going to go over that bearing race, and that's what's going to allow us to set our preload on the steering gearbox. An issue that comes up with this kind of restoration stuff is getting paint inside the threads, And so a lot of times you have to pull stuff back apart, go in and clean the threads.
Got the threads all cleaned out. We've got our correct fasteners in here, the original correct fasteners. I've already pulled out a couple shims out of the stack that the kit comes with, and because I could just feel that that was already going to be way too tight. So let's go ahead and snug these down and see where we're at. I need to find the right wrench first. I mean, we can turn it, and there's no end play. So what we want is we want no end play in the shaft, but we want it to turn nice and smooth. And to me, this just feels a little bit tight. Let's see if we put one of the super thin shims in there. Yeah, it's still feeling tight. Let's go ahead and add in some more. So I'm just going to repeat this process until I find a shim stack that's going to work for us. Okay, that actually feels really good. Nice and smooth. Zero end play, zero wiggle. So it's definitely preloaded just a touch, but it's still very easy to turn. So I am very happy with that. This is extremely exciting because this thing has been years in the making of rebuilding, and this is very exciting to have it start coming together like this. Okay, so I ordered this from Amazon. It's some specialty vintage SAE 140, and that's what this gearbox calls for. Not 75 140, not 85 140, but just straight 140. They didn't have multi-grades, weren't very common back then, if they even existed at all. I don't know. But what I'd like to do is kind of coat some of these parts with the 140. Oh, that's a nice sticky oil there. Is kind of coat some of this stuff as I put it together. I don't really want to fill up the box quite yet because I do still need to do clutch pedals, brake pedals, stuff like that. I'm not exactly ready to put it in the Jeep yet. Even though this video is focusing just on the steering column stuff, I am kind of doing this as a side project while I'm waiting for other stuff on the Jeep. So I'd like to put a little bit in there, but I don't want to put too much so that it spills out while I'm trying to store this until I get it in the Jeep. And I do still need to run the horn wire and everything. So, but I do want to get this buttoned up and sealed up. So let's just kind of coat some of this stuff with a little bit of gear oil as it goes together. That is a nice thick sticky oil. these bottom bolts go into the gearbox, and that's why they call for a copper washer. So kind of like a brake line, that copper washer is going to seal everything up. And that's what's going to keep the gearbox from just running out. These do not run into the gearbox, so there's no reason for any sealant up there, as the gasket's going to seal right there. As for the top, you could put sealant on the bolts. I think that would be okay. There's no gasket or anything here. Basically, they're relying on the fact that this is actually going to sit at a 45-degree angle, and so your fluid level is going to stay below that. All right, I've got it mounted up in the vise here, and it's a 5/8. Well, mine is a 5/8 lock nut on there. I'm just gonna, okay, right there it's touching. So what we want is a little bit of drag on that sector shaft. And the way this worm gear is, it's kind of a multi-variable rate turning. And so the drag should really only be in the center there. So let's see if we can adjust for that correctly. So if we go all the way to one end, let's see there. Okay. Then it's loose, and then it's dragging, and then we're back out to the other end. All right, there's a stop, and now back through the center, and so we should just have just that tiniest bit of drag right through the center there, and then it gets loose. I think right there gives us just the right amount of drag through the center. And then all the way out to the stops. Back through the center. Right there, and there's just the tiniest bit of drag. Okay, I think that feels good right there. Let me go ahead and lock that down. Check that again. And now the sector shaft has no end play. All right, now let's feel that. Yes, just a little bit of drag right in the center. Let's see right there. Let's see. Yeah, there's a little bit of drag, a little bit of end play there. I'm going to tighten that up just a tiny bit more. Let's feel that. Okay, yeah, that's a little bit better. And there we go. No sector shaft end play. Okay, now I'm happy. So as it tightens up there in the center, and then as it loosens up, as we turn just past that, I'm not getting any sector shaft end play. Right there. I'm happy. Okay. I went ahead and put the steering wheel on just kind of to mock this up so that I could feel that drag. So I need to get the steering wheel into the sandblaster, get it all cleaned up and painted and ready. And now we can focus on the horn, getting the horn wire soldered to the brass, and then the gearbox will be ready to go inside the Jeep. I tried several different methods of getting this horn button wire down there. I tried fishing coat hanger, I tried fishing string and catching it with the coat hanger, and ultimately what worked was just pushing the wire down there and looking at it with a flashlight until it was right next to the hole, and then turning it until it was just kind of coming up to the hole, and I stuck a little screwdriver in there and just kind of coaxed it out of that little hole. Oh, there we go. That was it. I was just overthinking it. Doot, doot. All right, so now I just need to trim that and solder it to that brass slip ring right on top there. As you can see, I've painted the steering tube at this point, and now I'm just going to go in and snip that to the desired length and strip the wire down. And then I have, now with soldering on this, I want to be extremely clean, and so I'm going to put flux on everything, and that's going to help keep oxidation and stuff out and promote the adhesion of the solder to the brass and to the copper wire. My first thing is to tin the copper wire, and so I'm just going to flow some solder into it. That's going to make it a lot quicker and easier to stick down. Now, it didn't matter how much heat I got out of my little soldering iron, it was not going to stick to the brass ring. So I went ahead and pulled the soldering tip and just used the torch to warm up the brass slip ring until the solder finally just flowed right into the brass. And that gave me a really good adhesion that I tried to pick at but would not come undone. I wish I had a lot more solder in there. I don't know if I dare warm it up again. It's pretty solid on there. And it's not like it should ever go anywhere because the brush just rides right down here. Okay, now we're on to installing the linkage underneath the Jeep. I had at first tried to replace this pin, but it would not come out of there with all the paint and years. So I just cleaned up the paint and went ahead and started to reassemble the bell crank on there with new washers, new O-rings, new bearings pressed into the bell crank. And I actually had my son helping me with this so he could learn a little bit about steering geometry. And I've assembled the tie rod ends, and we just went ahead and popped them in there, and this is all new hardware, all new ends, all new tubes, everything. And we just repeated the same for the other side. Now sliding the gearbox into the body, I didn't get footage of it, but it was very easy to slide in there. So it was a lot easier than trying to slide the tub over the gearbox. And then we're just going to tighten up this hardware, and the gearbox is mounted in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and slip the pitman arm on, and this was a tight fit, almost didn't make it, but there is enough room to slide it on and off without the gearbox being removed from the Jeep. And now the steering column tube clamp, I slid that down. We really wasn't sure what order to do any of this in, and then went ahead and slid the steering column tube down and just get it through there. I don't want to scratch anything, and then go under and kind of reposition all of that.
and it just drops right onto the steering gear there. Got the strap and the canvas cloth all installed there. I got the horn brush installed now, so just a couple of screws there holding that in, and you can just kind of lift up on that to get it over the brush. And I went ahead and turned the column and everything steers easily. While we're working on the horn brush here, why don't we just go ahead and hook up the wires? It's very difficult to film in here in this tight area, but let me see if I can get it. Oh, okay. There we go. I guess my hand's in the way still. Okay. Well, that should be all set up for the horn brush now. Ended up getting the steering wheel painted and installed on there, and it looks just fantastic. Put the horn button in. Don't have any power to it, so we can't test it yet, but it looks fantastic. And this steering wheel actually looks like it was molded in olive drab, and at some point I think the Navy just went ahead and painted right over everything because this is a Navy Jeep, so there's a little gray in there, but I really don't mind the patina of this. I think it just looks awesome, so we're gonna leave it. Okay, and we'll go ahead and just turn it, and you can see that those tires turn just fine. So, well, thanks for sticking in there with me on this one. I know it was long, and I know that we got really in detail on putting that gearbox together, and we kind of rushed through the rest of the installation. This video has been laying around for a few years now. It's been done for quite a while, and we're already moving on to other projects. So if you liked this, go ahead and hit the like and the subscribe, because there's a lot more Jeep content coming. We're getting into the wiring, and I've still got the gauges to do, and so there's just all kinds of stuff. We're hoping to have this thing running in just a few months. So hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.